Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Coronado Leadership podcast. And this is the place where we explore timeless principles. We talk about how to make a global impact. We talk about global leadership and disruptive thinking. And today I am your host, Marcos Coronado. And today we have a special guest, Axel Sippach. He's a global leader. He has traveled all around the globe, across more than 100 nations. And he has equipped and built leaders, global leaders with this global mindset and with faith. So today we're going to talk about how to lead, with this global mindset and how to lead with faith. So welcome, Axel Sippach. He is the founder and the CEO of Epic Global Network. So welcome.
Thank you, Marcos. It's really great to be with you. I'm excited about this podcast today.
Great. I am grateful. I am excited, and for your time and you are an inspiration, for me, and I know that you will inspire, others, in our today's episode.
So absolutely, looking forward to it.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. I am so happy. And first of all, Axel, I have met you, for 20 years, at least. And just to give you some introduction, to our great audience today, who is Axel Sippach and how did your leadership journey begin?
Wow, how many hours do we have to talk about
that? Something, just a nugget,
I'm 72 years old, so we got, I'll make it brief here. Well, Axel Sippach is a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. Yes. I began my journey with him back in 1976. A year later, in 1977, I felt a very strong calling for ministry, for the nations, and that calling just began to grow and grow, and something that I just became so passionate about. In 1984, many Ethiopian refugees at a terrible time in Ethiopia were coming to my city of Seattle, Washington, and Ethiopia was under a brutal communist dictatorship at that time. There was civil war in the country, a famine killing 1 million people, many refugees having fled, hundreds of thousands fled the nation into surrounding nations, trying to get asylum overseas. And many were coming to my city. And I always knew that Africa was a part of my destiny in terms of going there and ministering there, but I never knew quite what nation until I met these Ethiopians, and I fell in love with them. And during that terrible time of Ethiopia back in the 1980s, it was just a passion that just began to overwhelm me and overtake me, so to speak. It's all I could think about, all I could pray about, all I could just strategize how I could get there, and God just made a way in a very difficult situation because of the churches were underground at that time, meeting secretly because of the secret police, and churches had been closed. They didn't want any people of faith operating, of course, in a strong communist dictatorship, and just the doors supernaturally opened up for me to be able to go there. I had been learning so much about Ethiopia, even learning how to sing some of their songs in their native language, and the doors opened up in 1985, 40 years ago, for me to go there. And I went and I spent first week there in Addis Ababa, the capital, going from house to house to house to house, teaching and encouraging and motivating the Christians in these underground church settings. And then at that same time afterwards, going to Khartoum, Sudan, Djibouti, Nairobi, Kenya, Cairo, Egypt, and even Israel, where so many Ethiopian refugees had fled their country, and also spending time with them, inspiring them, motivating them, teaching them, and so forth. And I also felt a very strong word in my spirit that things were going to change in Ethiopia, that God was not going to leave them in this condition, and I began to share that with them, and 5 years later that came to pass, and everything changed in that nation, and when it came under new leadership. And my story is that I have just been traveling to the nations, raising up leaders now for all of these years, internationally, 40 years, and before that even a number of years, and so it's 101 nations now, about
Wow.
10 to 11 million miles of travel around the planet. That's 280 times around the earth, and the equivalent of 14 times to the moon and back. I'm not sure if I made it to Mars yet. I'll have to check with Elon, but
Maybe.
but uh, but it's been an exciting journey. It's been an adventure of a lifetime. Just being in so many different nations and so many different cultures, and just getting a chance to pour into the lives of especially so many young people from around the globe.
Yes, I love that, that great heart that you have for the nations, for the next generation leaders. And it's something that uh, I've been part of it, that how you have blessed me too, I am part of that next generation leaders, that you have been
Yes.
poured out, your wisdom, your leadership, your direction. So that's great, and how also, have this heart, for people, all around the globe, that's amazing, having this heart for people, that maybe they don't have so much maybe opportunities, or with or people in need, but you have this heart for them. So that's awesome, and how
Because you see the potential that even though they're at that time in very, very challenging, desperate even situations,
yeah,
does not negate what God has put on the inside of them, that each one
yes,
of them have a destiny, have talents and gifts and abilities, treasure that God has put on the inside of them, and every one of them a potential leader that can be developed and make a difference in their world. And maybe later we'll talk a little bit more
yes,
about that in terms of some stories
yes,
regarding that, because I've come to find out that no matter how desperate the situation may be,
yes,
if that person really has a desire to be used by God, to change the world,
yes.
to be a blessing, to become a leader, that the doors will open up. The doors will open up for them, and I will share testimonies about that later.
Yes, and that's very important, and it takes, of course, the responsibility of the individual, but also, someone like you, to believe in them and to invest in them and how to unlock that potential, that they have, that gifts and talents. Yeah,
Because
that's
many of these leaders, of course, many of these places, of course, I went in teaching and motivating, inspiring, but also personal mentoring.
yes,
I smuggled many books into
yes.
these places where it was illegal at that time, to smuggle
Wow.
books in or to bring books in. And I brought many books of faith and leadership books and study Bibles and so forth that they asked for, and never once got caught. Would bring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds over the course of several years. That was such a blessing to help begin to even prepare those in refugee situations for the leadership that they would later step into. Some began to step into the leadership even while they were there, and then others today are leading great churches and ministries in Canada and the US, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, many different places. And periodically I get phone calls from them thanking me, and about what I did for them back in those days. And it was a blessing. It blessed me, I think, more than they say I blessed them. It was such a blessing for me because it changed my life every time I went.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome how all the great work, that you have been doing. And and that's it. It's inspiring, and it reveals, a pioneer spirit, in your,
It's a pioneering spirit
your
for sure,
spirit.
Marcos, and it's a calling. I
Yes.
believe that uh, 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 was it Simon Sinek or Sinek, however you say his name, wrote the book about why.
Yes.
You have to have your why big enough that's the gives you the reason to roll out of bed in the morning. Your why has to be big
Yes.
enough to sacrifice for the cause, for the calling, the passion that you have that's developing on the inside of you. You have to be willing to do the delayed gratification and
Yes.
everything that you need to do in order to, even with what the Bible calls fish and loaf resources, right?
Yes.
Jesus multiplied the fish and the loaves to feed the multitudes. And many
Yes.
times that's all you have is the fish and the loaves. But if you're a person of faith, you begin to believe that God can multiply fish and loaves resources to do big
Yes.
and great things.
Yes. Yes. That's very, very important. It's a key. Yeah. Faith is an important role. I think that we are going to talk more about,
Sure.
in the following maybe conversation.
Absolutely.
I know that you are leading, a great and outstanding organization. The name is Epic. What is Epic and what it stands for?
Epic Global Network. Epic is an acronym also for extraordinary people influencing culture. And we began in August 28th, 2015.
Yes.
So just a little less than 10 years ago. And at that point, I was already in my early 60s. And again, another calling, another passion, another vision began to stir, another dream in my spirit. But at first I was wrestling regarding it. I'm thinking like, I'm already in my early 60s. People don't start, great ventures, big things already in their 60s necessarily. They're thinking about retirement or whatever. And I just really wrestled in my mind with it, and then came to the conclusion, no, this is something I have to do. And we launched Epic Global Network as a network, an organization for both emerging and established leaders, church leaders, and those in the marketplace, business leaders, nonprofit, NGO type leaders, and in the U.S. and also around the world, where our footprint of influence is. And so it has been growing, and we're just so excited with all that God is doing with Epic Global Network. And one of the things that we have as a big core value with Epic is what's called the 7 Mountain Mandate. Really, that we go beyond just the 4 walls of the church and understand that we have to go and bring transformation to society. We have to go and change society. And these 7 mountains, of course, the mountain of religion, mountain of business, mountain of media, mountain of arts and entertainment, mountain of family, mountain of government, mountain of education. These are all the mind molders of society. And we need to have integrous, righteous people, leaders, on these mountains of influence. If we don't, then we're going to have all kinds of policies and so that are very dark type policies that are not going to be a blessing to a nation.
Yes, that's a
And
great.
so we really have that as a core value of Epic, and wanting even church leaders to see that they have a responsibility, not only just to raise up church leaders, but to raise up those that have a calling, that are wired to business or government or arts and entertainment or media or the education mountain, and really help transform them to become the kind of leader that can bring change and transformation on these mountains of influence. And really, like we see scriptures with Daniel, was the advisor to Nebuchadnezzar. We see Joseph, who became the prime minister of Egypt. And so that's one of the reasons we also take every year people to the United Nations. We have access to go to certain events there, and we're able to take 10 or 12 leaders per year to different events there in order to just give them just the opportunity to be in such a global organization like the United Nations and be there for a week and hear the language, the articulation, the global issues that need solutions, and just be in an environment like that, because Daniel would have had to learn things similar to that in his time to become the advisor to Nebuchadnezzar. And the Bible says he was 10 times better than everything else, all the other advisors or so that Nebuchadnezzar had. And so we have scriptural references for this, and not everyone is called, even as a Christian, to be just a leader in the church, but many are called, in fact, the majority, to be leaders out there in culture, in society, in the nations.
Yes, I love that. How that is a pretty good job, and work, because it's about to taking out, the work that is being done, in faith communities and churches, ministries, but take it to the culture, to really drive transformation, to society, and that's great, and with this kind of global mindset, and faith. Yeah. And I know how important it is to do it in that way.
Absolutely. So we, of course, we do it through teaching and preaching, but
Yes.
identifying gifts and talents and abilities and callings in people, and mentoring and coaching and giving them opportunities to go to places like the United Nations, or to go with me to the nations. We had a team from Epic that was recently in Cuba for a week. And then at the UN before that, and then a couple of months ago in Ethiopia, and those trips just marked the people on that team. I mean, just marked them in such an incredible way that they said our lives will never be the same. We will never be the same. And so being able to afford those opportunities to people to be able to go with us and see what we do in the nations, and how we bring change, and how we work with leaders, and how we cast vision for the things that are core values of Epic, and they really get excited and see that they have a responsibility for their nation. When I first went to Ethiopia in 1985, it was a nation of 60 million, but now 40 years later, it's a nation of 130 million, and 70% is under the age of 30. So you have 130 now, more than double. And under 70% under the age of 30. So you have in Ethiopia and many other developing countries a young population. So they are the hope of the future of the nation, not just the church, but of the whole nation. And so I feel a tremendous responsibility to be able to help identify leaders for the various areas that they're wired for, they're called for, et cetera, and so we've just seen tremendous results over the years, and so many leaders that are involved in various different capacities, whether as church leaders, but many out there on one of these mountains of influence. They're involved with government. They've started NGOs, nonprofits. They're in business, and their business becomes a platform to do other transformational things that they're doing in society. Maybe they have a business, but their business is what's the term? That's social entrepreneurship or something like that. Socialpreneur, something like that is a new term to use. So you have a business that's growing and thriving, but your business becomes a platform then for social change. And you have it connected with maybe an NGO, a nonprofit, that much of the profits or so of that business then begin to go toward various things to bring change and transformation. And I love that concept. I think that's really, really important. When you look at the United Nations and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs that they have for 2030, and I don't think anyone, no matter what your political persuasion is, whether you're on the left or you're on the right, whether you're in America, you're a Republican or a Democrat, I don't think anyone can argue with most of those 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, who wants children in Africa drinking dirty water and getting diseases? Nobody does, right? No matter what your political persuasion. Now, maybe how we go about it we may have different strategies regarding that, different
Yes.
perspectives of how we solve the problem, but everyone has to agree we need to solve those kinds of global problems and issues. In 2025, there should not be children anywhere in the world dying from drinking dirty water, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that this is where you need to raise up business leaders that have the kind of mindset,
Yeah.
right? That, okay, we can solve these problems by compassionate capitalism, right? Not
Yes.
greedy capitalism, but
Yeah.
compassionate capitalism, right? That
Yeah.
we can do business and we can make profits, which the scripture, the Bible speaks much about that, but also then we can use those profits, a portion of them, to be a blessing, to bring transformation into these different
Yeah.
areas and arenas around the world that need it. And so there are various different ways of looking at how we can solve these global problems and issues. And so we want to be able to raise up leaders that can begin to see things like that, and even pastors and churches that begin to see, all right, how can we not only just raise up maybe 20% of the members of a church that, okay, are leaders in the church, but the other 80%, their leadership is out there in the marketplace, is on these mountains of influence,
Yeah.
where they have to be empowered and equipped to bring change out there. And
Yeah.
so we want to be able to change the mentality, the mindset of leaders that even lead local churches, so that they begin to see the members there as potential transformative change agents,
Yeah.
right, for their city, right?
Yes.
Because you'll find these 7 mountains of influence in any size city, and then, of course, big cities and nations and so forth. But you have it right in your backyard. Any city of 25, 30, 40, 50,000 people is going to have these 7 mountains of influence at some level operating there: government, business, media, education, family, arts and entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so that's really a part of what our heart is with Epic Global Network. In many places in Africa and other countries, and other places around the world also, that you might have a large Christian population. Nigeria is 45-50%, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa 35%, other places, but most of what they do stays within the 4 walls of the church. And
Yeah.
so with Epic Global Network and extraordinary people influencing culture, and this thrust that we have for the 7 Mountain mandate, we want to be able to help train people to take the precious things spiritually of faith
Yeah.
that they have, and go and implement them to bring change to society out there. Not
Yeah.
just to go to church on Sunday and you don't do anything else and you go back the next Sunday. And no, you're to be spiritual, 24/7, right? You're to be people of faith, changing the world 24/7, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that's a big part of what Epic is all about, and to help bring change and a different mentality, mindset, to spirituality, to churches, et cetera, et cetera.
That's amazing. That all that work, you have been talking about so many interesting and topics. That perspective, is really resonates with me, and I'm sure that it connects with the audience, because it's really what is needed right now. And I think that all that you have been sharing is related with one question, that I was thinking, with all your experience, with all your insights, and all your travels, all around the world, that thousands of miles, that you have in your in your system, uh, what is the state of leadership today? Because you are talking to me, and talking to our audience about that, the importance of developing leaders, and with your experience, what do you think is the current state of leadership,
Well, I
today?
think I believe that there is, in many circles and around the world, in every country at some level, a real lack of authenticity,
Wow, wow.
and accompanying integrity.
Yes,
And authenticity really also relates to trust, which is
yes,
perhaps one of the greatest requirements of leadership. It takes a while to earn trust, but then when you lose trust, wow, it could take forever, if sometimes never, ever being able to get it back at the same level. And so authenticity is really a key, and that's why it's such a buzzword in terms of leadership circles and books and various things when we talk about leadership today. I mean, you look at in 2007, 2008 in America, we had huge recession, we had the housing crisis, we had I mean, all of these banks and things on Wall Street ready to go bankrupt, ready to go bust, and the United States government having to bail them out because they said the whole economic system in America and possibly the world was going to shut down if the U.S. government did not bail them out because of their own failures, because of their own derivatives and all the stuff in the housing market that they were doing, making all these crazy loans and various things that caught up with them. It was a domino effect that finally caught up with them. And so the U.S. had to bail them out. So sometimes in America, government talks about, you know, gangsters out on the street and whatever, but these are gangsters on Wall Street, right? And these were gangsters on Wall Street that never went to prison for any of the stuff that they did. Right? They never went to jail. They never went to prison. In fact, when they got bailed out by the American government, almost $1 trillion, a little less than $1 trillion, they gave themselves all bonuses of millions and millions and millions of dollars. So you talk about gangsterism. These are thugs on Wall Street.
Wow.
You know, these are thugs on Wall Street. You're going to tell me who's the greater thug, the gangster on the street somewhere on a street corner, or the thug that's on Wall Street? You know, and the thing is that, you know, they lost a lot of authenticity that they still are trying to get back, and people are still very, very dubious about people that are in high corporate positions because of the lack of authenticity in one corporation after another, whether banks, whether other high-level companies, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. And then you have scandals, unfortunately, even in the church here in America. I don't know about Mexico, but we've had scandals here that begins to lose authenticity when leaders fail. You know, not that everyone is required to be 100% a perfect leader, but, you know, you have to. I have a friend of mine, he's a Christian rapper, and he has a great slogan: be real, be righteous, be relevant. You could do a whole leadership webinar just on those three, that three-part slogan: be real, be righteous, be relevant. Right? And so I think that is a huge thing that's around the world, whether you're you know, whether you're at the highest level in the government as a president or a prime minister or mayor of a city or corporate leader in a big Fortune 500 company or whatever it may be. If you begin to lose authenticity and you don't, you know, your walk doesn't accompany your talk. You know, you talk the talk, but you're not walking the walk. You're not walking the talk. You know, then people begin to see that and everybody begins to become really cynical about leadership. There's a tremendous cynicism. You know, leaders are just lying, or they're just exaggerating, or they're lying all the time. You don't know if this time are you telling me the truth, or is this another lie? You know, and it's just, you know, my goodness, it's just continual like that. You know, I mean, you cannot trust one particular news source, because every news source is giving you a particular perspective according to their political persuasion.
It's
right?
biased.
And so if there's so much media bias. So if you really, you have to check out at least 3 or 4 or 5 different news sources. And then if you really want to know the truth about a particular news story or so, you have to go do your own due diligence and research to really follow the paper trail, the money trail, whatever, and really see what is true. And many times it's so completely different from what the perspective of news agencies are giving you, right? And so So even, I mean, even the news agencies have lost credibility with America,
Yeah.
right? And so it's authenticity, credibility, integrity. Who's telling the truth? Who's lying?
Yeah.
And so it's crazy. Most the younger generation now, they say Gen Z, most of them get their news from Facebook. I don't know whether that's any better or not. Social media, if you're getting your news from TikTok and Facebook or Instagram
Instagram.
or Snapchat or whatever else, my goodness, again, you're getting someone's perspective, can you even think for yourself?
Yes.
Me as a leader, it's not so much for me to tell you what to think per se,
Yeah.
as to help you to think for yourself, that you can problem solve on your own,
Yes.
rather
Critical
than just
thinking.
telling you this is how you have to think about this, or this is how you have to think about this, etc.
Yes. It's to help, and people, to be able to think critically, it's critical thinking,
Exactly.
it's very, very important, and it's a skill, that is lacking, today,
Big time lacking, and and
yeah.
and sometimes what I found lately, and is a lack of curiosity.
Wow.
And I notice when I put posts up, I've got a pretty good Facebook following on my fan page. But when I put up posts about curiosity,
Yes.
uh, doesn't get much traction at all. And I've
Yeah.
tested it out several times, and people are not interested to be curious. They're not. I don't know why. I
Yes, and
don't know why they're
curiosity
not
is very
curious.
important to ignite innovation, and to
Everything,
what kind of
innovation,
innovation
everything.
and
You
solutions
can't
and
have
everything.
clarity unless you start off with curiosity.
Yes.
How are you, unless you're curious about your life, your future even, and begin to do the research and whatever you need to do about what you believe your dream, your future, your vision
Yes.
entails, and so forth. You have to have a certain level of curiosity that
Yes.
that that and that even drives critical thinking and gets you to a place of some kind of clarity to move forward and
Yes.
take your next steps.
Yes. What you have been talking about the importance of being authentic, to be uh, reliable, trust, to build trust, with people,
Integrity,
integrity,
absolutely.
core values, very important. But how to help people, or how to raise leaders with these core values and sets of skills, how can we do it? Or how,
Well,
what is the
I
actual
believe they have
method?
to have some kind of value system. Now, for
Yes.
us as Christians, of course, the scriptures, the Word of
Yes.
God, the principles in the Word of God, become our foundation, our value system.
Yes.
And many don't have a value system. So if they
Yes.
don't have a value system, they don't have something to what do they where are their markers? Where are their right and wrong? What's right, what's wrong, if they don't have some value system?
Yes.
And so for us, of course, the Word of God, the Bible, is the value system for us
Yes.
as Christians. But if your parents didn't raise you up with certain values,
Yes.
and you ingrain those in you growing up, that they become a compass, within you, to let you know if you're on track, navigating on track, or you're not on track, then I don't know. It's something that I think this is where young leaders that are coming up need mentors.
Yeah.
They need to have coaches. They need to have mentors that are in their life, that can help show them true north, help show them the direction they need to go, and even have discussions regarding these things.
Yes.
There's all kinds of various things regarding values and right and wrong, and all of all of the debates that have been around gender and so many things, the last
Yes.
few years, and I guess you need to have a discussion with young leaders regarding those things and
Yes.
talk through those things. Right. I
Yeah.
love to have think tank sessions, roundtable talks with
Yes.
young leaders on a number of these kinds of topics. I want to hear how they think, and then hopefully that they will want to hear how I think regarding it. Right. So, and they have to really, in order to open up, know that my heart is open to them, so
Yes.
I think when young leaders, sometimes older leaders think, oh, the young people just need to open their hearts first to the older leaders, but no, it's really the other way around. The older leaders have to first open their hearts to the young generation and be willing to listen, right? And be willing to hear how they feel about, even if they think they're wrong about what they're saying or how they feel about things, you have to at least begin to listen first, and then capture some attention and build some trust, which is building some authenticity, building some trust there, that then they also will give you time, to hear what you have to say and pitch your argument of why you believe your position is correct, right?
It takes a lot of humility,
It takes much humility on both sides.
Both sides.
Sometimes older leaders, maybe that have become successful already in various fields or so, sometimes they have a certain amount of pride and they don't know how to humble themselves, but there has to become a certain level of humility. And if older leaders want to capture the attention of the young generation, it has to begin with them. It has to begin with them. And there's scriptures that even talk about that. And, we have such a case in America and many other nations around the world of fatherlessness.
Wow.
Because fathers were either not in the lives of children, or if they were abusive, or whatever reason, and or they just weren't there in their lives, whatever it might be, and so there's like a curse of fatherlessness that's in the land, and if you ask many young men and probably young women too, but that are in prison for various offenses. And you ask them how they got there, or what set them up to make the wrong choices to get there. I would say probably 8 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10, would have some issue with the father.
Wow.
And fatherlessness would be the topic, and that you have pent up issues of anger and whatever else, rejection and worthlessness, and maybe you were told all your life you weren't any good, you're never going to be any good, you're never going to be this or whatever, and almost like word curses spoken against you that becomes like a curse in your life, and sometimes you can have young men sometimes out in the streets that put on a rough and tough exterior to survive, but inside there's a little boy, little Johnny or whatever, 5 years old, crying to be heard, and sometimes everyone deals with it in different ways, but sometimes just stuffing all of their pain and all of their hurt. Let's say like in a cellar somewhere, in the cellar of their heart, and then closing the door. But one day everything starts backing up out the cellar door because there's no more room in there. And then in the wrong place at the wrong time, they make a wrong decision and gets them in jail, in prison for 20 years or life. And much of that has to do with fatherlessness.
Yes, that's so deep, because actually, that's where leadership begins, at the core of the family, with our parents, our father figure is so important, and our mother too, because they are the first persons, where we relate, and we learn so many things, how to self manage, ourselves, and how to relate others, how to respect others, how to influence others, how to be really humble, and not just with our parents, but with our siblings, and and if
you cannot,
that is lacking,
if you're a parent, you cannot just let the school system teach your children, disciple your children, raise your children. And then they come home, and back in the day it was the television, but now it's your phone. And and if you're not
AI.
taking time to raise them and put values in them, then they're growing up without any of those values. And it's the fashion industry, the music industry, the film industry. All of these industries are, quote unquote, discipling, training your children to think certain ways, and then they act out in certain ways.
Yes. I love, something that you were talking about the power of listening, and how to really connect, with the youth. And I think it's very important, how to build bridges, among the next generations, and to approach them, in a proper way, with humility, with curiosity, with respect, in order to listen to them and to really making the effort, to understand them, to connect in a very authentic way. I think that's very important,
And I realize that they need me, but I need them also.
Yes.
I need them to help navigate this brave new world that we are in, with all this technology and where everything is headed, and how to figure out things. I can spend 20 minutes with a young person to solve a problem that might take me 20 hours on Google to figure out. Right? And so I have to listen, and I want to listen to young people, and I want their perspective and how to solve global problems and issues and various things like that. I want to hear their perspective, and I believe if they know that I'm listening to them, they will take time then to listen to me. And it becomes a beautiful relationship that is both mutually beneficial in so many ways.
I know that this is powerful. This approach, I think it's a blessing, for all our audience, to really learn, from your insights, and to really put them in practice, and to build better relationships, with among the different generations, that we are living together, coexisting, in different contexts, in churches, in ministries, in business, in corporations, NGOs. But at the end, all of them are composed of people, So we have to be able to relate in a better way, and to connect in a better way, all the people together. So I think
Marcos.
That's key.
Absolutely.
That's key.
Absolutely.
And you have been talking about how important is faith, and spirituality, in order to have this value system, in order to equip in a better way, leaders. So in your experience, how and why it's very important, faith and spirituality, in order to foster, the next generation leaders. Because we know that, for example, Gen Zs, they are more open, right now, more than ever, I think, than previous generations, to spirituality, whatever it means that, because we know that it can be a door, for God, and I think it's a great thing, for us, because we share our faith in Christ.
Right.
But how to capitalize that, with this new generation and next generations, to be able to use it, as an advantage, as we raise leadership.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of, in many ways, we have to model even our leadership and our faith and our spirituality. And it's something that we have to model in our speech, in what we do, in what people see regarding us, what people hear and feel when they're around us, what they're sensing. Are we people of humility, love, of are we approachable? Are we just proud and arrogant and whatever? And that's really important. How do we walk in our spirituality and in our faith? And I think that's one of the things that young people are really wanting to see, and wanting to again see authenticity even in that area. That what you're saying and what you're believing and all of this, that you're actually living it out every day in your practice and in what you do, and it becomes a big part of everything that you do. And somebody once said that when God gives you an idea or a dream or a vision, it's always much bigger than you can just do in yourself. And it's because then, of course, God gets the glory. If you just can do it in yourself and you did something, you can just pat yourself on the back and say, well, I just did a great job. And okay, that's fine. And so, but if you do something that's so big that if God didn't intervene with his grace, you would just completely fail and fall flat on your face. And the young people see that you're a person of faith, that you have a calling, you have a conviction, you have a passion, you want to do something to help change the world, to bring value to other people. If you want a successful business, I mean, that's one of the biggest things you need to do is how can your business, whether a product or service or whatever, bring greater value to people, right? And so and if your faith is involved in that, people will see that. And so many times our actions can even speak louder than our words. And so young people really want to see, are you really serious about this? Is this something you live out every day? Whether you're a preacher or not, you can be a businessman, you can work in government, you can be in media, you can be in a number of various different professions or so. But if you are a strong Christian, a disciple of Jesus Christ, a follower of Jesus Christ, are you living that out every day in your life with the principles that are in the Bible? And are people able to see that? And do people want to emulate that? Do people want to say, how do you do that? How can you live like that? How can you just, not curse every time something maybe goes wrong or whatever, How can you say hallelujah instead or whatever, rather than a 4-letter curse word, right? And so I think, you have to let your light shine, right? If there's light on the inside of you, that light has to shine in a darkened world out there. And so does your light shine? Does your light really shine? And if you're a leader is one who has influence. Maxwell always said, right, at the simplest definition of a leader, it's someone who has influence, right? And so we have this light, and that light should shine through our influence, through everything that we do and everything that we say. That there should be light. There's one verse in the Bible that says we should always have our speech full of grace, seasoned with salt. Full of grace, seasoned with salt. And so people are listening. When you don't think people are listening and you're having a conversation, there are people sometimes that are listening in on your conversation, and afterwards will actually say something. Well, I heard you say something about this or about that. And I'm finding that out more and more and more and more often as I travel around the world, and as I'm having a conversation in an airplane or in an airport somewhere, in a restaurant, and I've got 108,000 or whatever followers, or like people that follow me on Facebook. And you never know when there's someone that's one of your followers or fans on Facebook, is listening in on a conversation. You don't know who they are, right? So faith is really a big part. There's no way I could have done, and I can do what I'm doing in the world today without faith. Faith and trusting God that what he's put in my heart to do, that he's going to provide for me to do that, right? Where someone once said, where he guides, he provides, right? And
Yes.
so there is a great sense in that. If your why is big enough and your passion is burning strong enough on the inside of you to want to do something great to help and be a blessing to people and to solve global problems and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that there will be resources that will come. They will come from different ways, from different people, and even if it's little boys, 2 fish and 5 loaves, little tiny loaves of bread, God can multiply that to feed thousands, right? And so I've seen God do that so many times over the years in my life, and still do it. He will send you the right people that have the resources or the open door connection or whatever it is you need, the relationship, the connection, the open door, the resources, whatever it may be. You will see a supernatural realm that you begin to operate in.
Yes.
Right? And a faith that is so powerful, really powerful. So it begins with we've got to have clarity in our lives. We have to give clarity regarding what we're called to do, and that clarity will begin to bring conviction, right? And we begin to have such a strong conviction that we can't fail, that we'll just move forward, and that conviction leads us to confidence, which leads us to great courage. So clarity, conviction, confidence, courage, and we can just do anything. We can just believe, God and us, we can do anything. Hallelujah. And it's an incredible mentality to have, that you can change the world and you can make a difference. And one day when you get to heaven, you can hear him say, well done.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
So,
what a great message, in words. Yes.
yeah.
There is a final, I don't know if you would like to leave, our audience, with one final thought or some final words, that you would like to
I think
add?
you got to begin where you're at. I mean, sometimes you can get overwhelmed by a big vision, but you have to start where you're at, right?
Yes.
And you can't just become so overwhelmed by a vision or a dream or something you really want to do that you never get started anywhere. So you have to get started somewhere. You have to begin somewhere. You say, well, I want to go to the nations. I want to go do, okay, well, the nations are right in your backyard in universities and colleges in your city, right?
Yes.
Many people that become presidents and prime ministers in countries around the world studied in universities and colleges in America or whatever country you're in, right? So you can start right there. You've got internet and you've got social media, so you can begin to mentor people already in Pakistan, in India, in wherever, in Africa, wherever it may be, in China. You can begin to mentor somebody just by WhatsApp or Messenger or Zoom or whatever it may be, and begin to pour into someone's life. So start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere. Hallelujah. Start somewhere. Start with what you have and be faithful with that, and let that purpose just develop on the inside of you, and begin to lead with purpose. Bring other people into the project that you're doing. Begin to share other people what you're doing and say, you want to do this together? Let's do this together. And then find a tribe, find a network, an organization of like-minded people that have got the same DNA, right? That's so important to have people that you can bounce things off of and develop relationships with, and it's just so important. And find mentors yourself. Many times mentors can even be books. I remember 2 books that I read in 1977, 78 that totally changed my life. One about a man named Lester Sumrall, who was doing missions in Mongolia and China and other places in the 1930s. And then another about a man that had an organization in the Netherlands smuggling Bibles into the Soviet Union and East Bloc countries. And 7 years after reading those books, I was doing exactly what was in those books. 7 years later. So you can even let books mentor you. Books can inspire and motivate and mentor you, but then also finding individual mentors or so that can help you get to where you need to go. And many times maybe connecting with a network can be one way to be able to do that, and there are many other ways. So you have to be serious. You have to be serious. And listen, it's such a joy to know that what you have done and sacrificed for and so forth has blessed somebody, has raised up somebody, has transformed somebody, has developed them in their leadership, and now they're doing incredible things. Sometimes they'll be doing things even greater than you down the road, which should not make you jealous or intimidated. That should give you great joy. I can tell you story after story about refugees that I inspired and motivated and mentored in Sudan and Djibouti and other places back in the 80s and early 90s. And later they got political asylum status, and now they're in America and Canada and New Zealand and Australia and Europe and other places doing incredible things. Some have 2 PhDs, some are leading churches of 500 to 1,000, others are leading NGOs, others are teaching as professors in universities, so forth and so on. And yet when I met them, they had one set of clothes and didn't know where their next meal was coming from. But there was a treasure on the inside of them to be mined, potential, possibilities, but they needed someone to be able to let them know about those possibilities, to let them know that dream was possible, to let them know that circumstances and situations could open up if they just believed. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Thank you. That's inspiring. Every word, that you have been sharing, very powerful, very deep, profound. And it's important, it's key, to really unlock the potential of people. I think it starts with that, believing in them.
Yeah.
And
If you're
then,
living in America and, we talk about the inner city, the hood, the ghetto or whatever. Yeah, but those are all young men and women that have, been in various situations in life that just, dealt them a bad card, some would say, right?
yes,
But yet, if they found someone that could really pour into them,
yeah,
wow, what could happen? What could develop? Right? I had a friend that used to have a large church in inner city in Chicago, and in the worst part of the city with drive-by shootings and everything. And so many of his members became those that found Jesus Christ, and they became leaders. They became business leaders, church leaders. They started going to the nations. They got their passports. Some were drug dealers, some were prostitutes, some were gang bangers, et cetera, and now they got their passport, and they're going to the nations, and they're developing businesses, and they're getting promotions on their job, and they're getting their degrees and whatever it is, right? And so they need someone to believe in them.
yes. Sometimes it's what it only takes, to really ignite, that kind of transformation in people, And yeah,
So why
thank
not
you.
you that are watching here? Those of you that are watching, why not you? Why not
Yes.
you?
Why not
Why
you?
not you be that person?
Yes. Yes. And you can be that person. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Axel. Thank you for all your insights, your wisdom, your energy, your time, for being here in Coronado Leadership. Thank you very much. The world needs more leaders like you.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you. What a powerful reminder that leadership is rooted, in purpose and faith. So
You're very welcome, Marcos, and it's been a joy to be with you here on the podcast.
Thank you. And to all our listeners, our great audience, share this episode, with a young leader, a thinker, a dreamer, someone, that you think that can be blessed, with this podcast. So thank you very much. Thank you all, and follow us and be in touch, in our next episodes of Coronado Leadership. Thank you. Thank you very much.